No one asked me about this, but I've just been thinking about it because I'm living it, quite frankly. And it's interesting. The older I get, the less I think that wisdom is about learning new things. I think it's more about realizing there are things that you've believed for years, sometimes decades even, that served you really well for the season, but they won't take you where you're trying to go next. I wouldn't necessarily call them lies because they weren't lies. Most of them helped me build a career, for example, that I genuinely loved. Well, let me be honest about that. I genuinely loved it for a lot of years. I didn't genuinely love it for the last several years, but nonetheless, these are things I'm going to share several of these things in this episode because I think they'll resonate with a lot of you listening. But these are things, for example, that helped me become a great teacher and, then professor and then vice president. And I'm proud of each one of those chapters. But but lately, and as I get older, as they say, I've realized the beliefs that got me to where I was are not the ones that are going to lead me into the best, happiest, healthiest second half of my life. And I wonder if that's true for a lot of women in midlife. Not because we've failed in any kind of way and not because we made bad choices in our past, but just because we've grown, right? So we talk a lot about learning. We read more books and we listen to more podcasts, and a lot of us even, take more courses. And, the more you learn, the more you know. But I don't think we talk enough about unlearning, or maybe outgrowing is how I should put it, because those things feel a little different to me. Unlearning sounds like I was wrong. Outgrowing sounds more like this belief served me well until it didn't. So I like that better. So I think that honors who I was without requiring me to stay her forever. So I'm going to talk about these things in terms of what I feel like I've outgrown, and bear with me, this will all make sense. So the first belief that I think I've outgrown is the more capable you are, the more you're supposed to carry. All right. If you're listening to this, I bet you have felt this one. When you're competent, not confident, when you're competent, people trust you. And so they ask you to take on more. And because you're capable, you do that. And at first, I think that feels really good. I mean, it feels like respect in so many ways. And it just makes you feel really worthy and good. And then one day you wake up and you feel like you are carrying, or you realize actually you are carrying responsibilities that nobody ever actually handed to you. You kind of picked them up along the way because you could. And somewhere along the way, I stopped asking, like, whose responsibility is this? I just thought about, well, can I handle it? Can I do it? And I did it. And I think there's a difference between something being your responsibility and you just thinking, well, I can handle it, so I'll do it. I don't think being capable automatically means that something belongs to you or that it should belong to you. And that took me a really long time to realize. I think in part it was the responsibility, and being capable was somehow in my brain tied to my worth. And that's a very dangerous, I'll say, connection to make in your head. So I've outgrown that and I've put it down. Second belief. So here's another one. If I can do it, I should do it. And I think this is one that sneaks up on us as successful women because we've become so focused on solving problems that we stop asking whether a problem is actually ours to solve. We take it on as ours. And I don't know when I stopped asking myself, like, do I actually want to do this? And instead, I just like kept proving that I could do things over and over and over. And those are not the same thing either. One builds competence, the other one builds a life. The third one, the third belief that is, has been sitting with me a whole lot lately. I used to think that changing directions meant somehow everything that came before it was wasted. And I don't believe that anymore. I think every chapter has prepared me for the next phase of my life. Leaving higher education, for example, that was not walking away from 30 years. It was standing on those 30 years, building a coaching business with a mentorship was not abandoning education. It was just another expression of my teaching. And now I'm even thinking differently again. I'm writing professionally again, speaking professionally again. I'm living somewhere that looks like completely different than what I imagined, my life to look like 15 or 20 years ago. And I'm realizing that maybe this isn't another like reinvention so much as it is an evolution. Evolution doesn't reject the past. Evolution builds on the past. And maybe that's really what midlife is all about. It's not trying to become someone completely different than who you were before. You're not, trying to get back to who you used to be. You're not trying to get back to what you used to look like, but you're having the courage to admit that you've outgrown some things. You've outgrown some beliefs and expectations, maybe that expectations that other people had of you, maybe expectations you had of yourself. You've outgrown definitions of success. Maybe you've even outgrown some identities that you carried around. And I think that's okay. In fact, I think it's pretty freaking healthy. Plants and pots outgrow, or plants and trees rather, outgrow the pots they were initially planted in. Kids outgrow their shoes. So why are we surprised when we outgrow former identities? So here's kind of the question that I've been sitting with lately. And it's not about what I need to learn next so much as it is, what have I outgrown? Because I have a feeling that our lives are not built by collecting more information. It's built by having the courage to let go of things that no longer fit us, whether those are people or beliefs or environments, professionally, personally, careers. And I think that evolution and that recognizing what you're outgrowing and moving down that path, that's not a failure. That's freedom. And I'm embracing it. So I'd love to hear if you are too. So thanks for being here with me. This was kind of a short, sort of off the cuff, maybe even a little rambling kind of episode, but I hope it was valuable for you. I'll see you right back here next time.